Tom, I need to talk to you for a sec.
While I was on my way to the site, I was stopped by the department head. I halted in my tracks. Yes, what is it? It was rare for Anne to approach me directly, so I responded with a bit of confusion.
This isn't the place for this conversation. Come to the conference room.
Following her instructions, I headed to the conference room, entered, and sat down opposite her.
You only graduated high school, huh? I wonder about a company that would leave the management of a logistics system to someone with just a high school diploma.
Angered by Anne's words, I retorted, "Does educational background really matter in managing things?"
Sorry, but you're fired. We've hired someone with a higher education level.
Suddenly being told I was fired left me speechless. My name is Tom Smith. I'm an engineer managing the company's distribution system. Despite having only a high school diploma, I was self-taught in system engineering, which the company recognized, allowing me to join the company. I owe my employment to Ken, the previous department head, who helped me get this job. I owe everything to him. Having lost my parents in a car accident at the age of 5, I was an orphan with no siblings or relatives and was placed in a foster care home. That home had a computer donated to it, and since 5th grade, when I first encountered computers at school, I was drawn into the world of computing. Whenever I had free time at the foster home, I would tinker with the computer, growing interested in programming. I would review and apply what I learned in school, advancing to the point where I was creating games and playing them with friends by the time I reached high school. Though it was suggested that I further my education in college, financial constraints made it impossible. Realizing there were many families unable to place their children in the fully occupied foster home, I decided to leave upon graduating high school and took a job at a restaurant that offered room and board. The restaurant, frequented by Ken during his lunch breaks, was where I started working.
Quite a young server, aren't you?
He'd say, as I wiped down tables and showed him to his seat. It turns out the shop owner and Ken were childhood friends.
He's hired from a local foster home. The kid's pretty sharp with computers, even does our books on the computer, calculating everything from sales to profits in a snap. He shows us which menu items are popular, the profit margins and all. Though, knowing things you'd rather not can be a pain.
The restaurant owner would praise me while laughing.
Pretty impressive. We're talking about digitizing our logistics at my company. Computers are becoming essential, and without them, we won't be able to keep up. Even if you're busy, keep studying. If you're still into computers when you turn 20, we might have a spot for you at our company.
It seemed Ken was genuinely interested in my computer skills.
I was thinking of leaving the shop to him, so I could take it easy. But working at Ken's company might offer you more in the way of a future. Give it your best shot, Tom.
The shop owner encouraged me too. At the foster home and school, everyone recognized my talent with computers, and I took great pride in that. Intrigued by the logistics system Ken mentioned, I saved up to buy a computer on my modest salary and spent all my free time learning to program. Discovering that a tablet could speed up orders and automate sales tallies, I experimented by programming my own system, using a second-hand smartphone as a tablet stand-in. Ken gave me advice and helped me refine the program. The old shop underwent a tech makeover that surprised many customers, attracting even those from IT companies. The shop owners supported my experiments, investing time and money in them. By 20, I had amassed considerable knowledge. And to think you taught yourself all this. How about joining our company? Ken eventually offered.
The only reason I didn't teach you to cook was that I hoped you'd join Ken's company someday. What's the use in learning to cook if you're going to be a corporate employee? I personally thought it's better for you not to do things halfway.
The restaurant owner expressed his deep consideration for my future. Leaving the restaurant felt wrong after having received 3 years of kindness, but I was grateful for the owner's foresight.
This place is old, and it would need to be rebuilt even if someone took it over. I don't really want to continue it that much. When you get a job, you'll be renting an apartment, right? I'm planning to close this restaurant eventually.
I felt lonely as the restaurant owner said that. For me, it was like my own home.
I'll be your guarantor when you rent an apartment. I'll hire someone from the foster care who seems to have dropped out of school, like you did. That's one way to contribute to society. Once you are settled, come by for a meal sometimes, will you?
The manager tried to alleviate my guilt about leaving by talking about various things. And then I told Ken about it.
That's because you've worked hard. I heard from the owner how you studied till late every night. Please take care of that kid, he'd say to me.
Ken shared about the owner's kindness.
Let's get you to take the hiring exam soon. I'm sorry, but our company has never hired someone without college diploma for a technical position. It seems best for me to headhunt you. Could you summarize the system you created at the restaurant in your resume? We'll use that as the first round of selection.
After being told this, I prepared my resume and handed it to Ken. There seemed to be considerable opposition within the company, but Ken wanted them to see my abilities and suggested that if I could outperform a third-year engineer in a programming contest, they should hire me. I went to the company at the time Ken had told me and took the exam. Before the exam, the restaurant owner closed the restaurant to buy me a suit, and he accompanied me to the store. As I put on the suit, the owner couldn't help but tear up, feeling proud of my growth. Wearing the suit felt more restrictive than I expected. Furthermore, as I didn't know how to tie a necktie, a female clerk helped me, making my face turn red from embarrassment. As the restaurant owner teased me about it, a passerby remarked, "What a close father and son you both are." Hearing that, I said, "Yes, he's really my beloved father," and looking at the owner, he finally broke down in tears. After paying, I took the suit and thanked the owner. He looked embarrassed, patted my shoulder, and left the store. Following him out, I found the owner crying behind the shop. Approaching him, I asked, "Would you consider adopting me? I'd like to call you Dad." And he quietly nodded, saying, "Would you be okay with me? I've wanted to ask you but couldn't. I'm so happy you said that." Then he started calling Ken. That night, Ken, the owner, and I went out to celebrate the adoption.
He has always wanted to adopt you since he took you in. I'm glad that dream came true.
Ken's words made me incredibly happy.
We have to call it an early night because of the exam tomorrow.
I went home first, but the owner and Ken stayed out drinking till dawn. The next day, I quietly left for the job exam. Although anxious about what the test would be like, I felt positive, ready to study again and seize another opportunity if needed. After the interview, I took the same test as a third-year employee who quickly assembled the program. While surprised by the speed of his typing, I stayed calm and completed my programming without rushing. As the time limit approached, I had finished, but the employee was still working on his program. After they were collected for assessment, the programs were first tested on a machine, starting with the employees. Although his program functioned as required, it wasn't completely finished, leading to a score of 80. Then, my program was tested. It wasn't perfect, but it did score 95. The evaluators decided that my self-taught skills were more than sufficient, resulting in my hiring. I immediately shared the news with my father, and we rejoiced together. Returning to the restaurant, the regular customers also celebrated, and I was set to start work the next day. Eventually, the owner and I formally completed the adoption process. After joining the company, I became part of the team implementing the logistics system. Creating something from nothing was truly challenging, but through continuous programming, testing, and revision, often clashing with team members, we progressed in systematizing the process. Finally, the system was launched successfully, marking a significant achievement. As the project concluded, I became the sole person responsible from the initial team tasked with managing the system, leading to my current role. As the system went operational, Ken retired on reaching his pension age, saying,
Tom, you've done well to launch this. With this system, we can reduce both the employee workload and errors, cutting labor costs significantly. It's a considerable benefit for the company.
Ken's contributions to the system's concept and operation were recognized, and there was talk of him joining the board, but he chose to enjoy his post-retirement life instead. Simultaneously, my father also retired, passing the restaurant to a young man from the foster care, marking his exit from active duty. The young man was also adopted, and though not related by blood, I gained a brother, and we both took care of our father. Dad was planning to close the restaurant, but he reluctantly agreed when my brother wanted to take over, though I could tell he was actually happy about it. Relieved of the burden, Dad has been enjoying his retirement, traveling and playing golf with Ken. After Ken retired, Ann Fuga transferred from the sales department, became the new head of our department. She, not understanding the technical side, often gave me impossible tasks, causing frequent clashes. Whenever I outsmarted her in meetings, it seemed to hurt her pride, making her storm out, red-faced, which worried our colleagues.
Don't embarrass the boss too much. It'll only worsen your position, and she's probably just trying to help the company.
I was often cautioned like that, but I couldn't stay silent when our hard-earned system was criticized. I despised the contempt she occasionally showed and confronted her, meeting her strong-willed gaze, having heard of her troubles with colleagues in sales. Even knowing I was the most knowledgeable about the system, she refused to acknowledge it. In reality, no one in the company knew the logistics system better than I did, and I handled all its troubles and improvements alone. Then, in a meeting room, I was shocked by her words. "You really don't understand anything, do you?" I sighed in exasperation, saying, "All right, I'll resign as you wish. Who will be my successor? It's a complex system, and I'd like to ensure a proper handover. I want to ensure a smooth transition so my successor won't struggle." And I told this to the boss, but was told, "There's no need to hand over from a high school graduate like you. We'll leave it to someone with a higher education level." Furious at her words, I simply said, "Understood," then left to write my resignation letter. When I submitted it, the manager was astonished, asking,
What happened suddenly? Is there an issue with the terms? The company will really struggle without you. Ken also insisted on relying on you when he retired. I thought I was making things easier for you, but where did you find dissatisfaction?
The manager inquired, looking troubled, so I relayed Anne's remarks, leading him to argue.
Anne, coming from sales, doesn't understand the technical aspects. You don't need to take her seriously, even if she talks about hiring educated employees. No one but you can manage the system, and a handover would take at least a year, right?
The manager appeared quite angry at her comments. I don't mind quitting, but I want to ensure a proper handover. With discussions about system upgrades ongoing, halting the system would significantly harm the company. The manager nodded.
Exactly. Let me keep this resignation letter. I'll inform her of the risks after your departure and try to change her mind.
Thank you, please do. As I was about to leave, the manager asked, just out of curiosity, "What are your plans after leaving the company?" So I responded with a smile, "My brother has taken over the restaurant, so I'll be helping out there for a while."
Good to know you'll be nearby. Maybe we can hire you as a contractor if needed. It'll be easier for you, avoiding direct dealings with the boss.
The manager suggested that to me. If Anne agrees, though she probably won't because of her spite, I said to the manager I wouldn't return to the company until a decision was made, and left for the day. Dad and my brother were surprised by my early return and showed concern as I explained the situation, making me truly appreciate having a family for the first time. Although I had been worried about before while in foster care, being cared for by family felt uniquely reassuring. Meanwhile, the manager tried to persuade Anne about my contributions and the impact of my absence, spending time trying to bring me back to the company. However, Anne remained unconvinced, leading to my definitive resignation. Confronting her, the manager asked,
How will you take responsibility if the logistics system fails and causes company damage?
Her cold reply was,
It's just the system a high school graduate created. We can simply rebuild it. I don't see it as a big deal, especially with the talented college graduates we've hired.
The manager shared this with me over beers at the shop, apologizing.
Tom, I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you.
As he downed his beer and asked for more, I replied back to him, I appreciate it, manager, but don't overdrink. We don't want to worsen your standing with the boss, and if the new employee can handle it, maybe it's for the best. Now that I've resigned, I'm thinking of enrolling in an online college. This situation made me realize I need at least that qualification.
It's frustrating to be discounted for lack of formal education. I thought technical skills should stand on their own.
The manager empathized with me as I lamented my situation, having climbed the ranks on his skills alone. His acknowledgement meant a lot to me. Let's see how the new employee and brought in handles things. I can help out if there's trouble, regardless of the cost. Hearing this, Dad asked, "Good thinking. I'd be happy if you can do that. Don't you need to discuss it with Ken? He's enjoying retirement so much, I don't want to worry him, and he can't really intervene in company matters. It would just upset him to know about it." I asked Dad to keep this a secret for Ken's sake. That day, the manager stayed late at the restaurant, reluctant to leave, so I drove him home and thought about what I could do for him, deciding to prepare handover documents. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked on the documents and handed them to the manager on my last day. While many colleagues saw me off, Anne and her employee, John, continued working, not leaving their desks. The manager had suggested John say goodbye, but he refused, only following Anne's orders, and after that, the manager stopped trying to talk to him. After resigning, I enrolled in an online college, attending classes. Spending my days in a mix of relief and loneliness due to the lack of contact from the company. I was surprised one night by a call from the manager, sounding very panicked.
The logistics system has crashed. John made changes without proper checks and without any backup data taken before. We can't restore it.
I'm on my way. I quickly responded to the manager and headed to the company, where the manager was waiting for me at the gate. Inside, I found John being yelled at by a crowd.
When will this be fixed? You said you could handle it, right? Not taking a backup is just negligent. Who's going to take responsibility for this?
In the midst of the chaos, John was losing his cool, blaming Anne. I told her I couldn't do it. If you have a complaint, take it up with her. She knows how to handle the responsibility.
After John broke the program, she just said she had something else to do and left. What's with that, boss? But right now, fixing this is what matters. Tom, you're the only one I can rely on. Please help.
The manager pleaded my help, so I approached John. "John, right, tell me what happened."
It's none of your business.
He retorted coldly, causing my former colleagues to get even more upset.
How can you say that to Tom? Fu came here to help.
They chided John, moved him aside, and invited me to take over the computer. Seeing the program, I realized it was one of the system's most complex parts. Taking a deep breath to focus, I started restoring the altered areas back to their original state. Surprisingly, I had memorized the complex parts due to the difficulties I faced before, completing the restoration in about an hour. After a successful check, my former colleagues applauded me, and many came to shake my hand. John, watching from the side, accused, "You made such a complicated program on purpose, so no one else can touch it. Huh, that's a sneaky move." I didn't do anything like that. It became like this because I was trying to meet everyone's needs. I spent months building just this part of the program. It's complex and significant to me. If you had done your research, you should have known not to tamper with it.
Tell that to Anne. She said anyone could handle it because a high school graduate made it. But looking at it, finding someone who can write this level of programming isn't easy, even in the whole country. How did you acquire these skills?
John bitterly remarked, but I left without responding. I went with the manager and my former colleagues to the company's gate, and they saw me off.
Can't wait to see Anne's reaction tomorrow. Maybe we should start a petition to bring you back, Tom. This company needs you.
I appreciated the sentiment, but wasn't hopeful. However, the satisfaction of solving the problem reignited my desire to continue in this field. Considering employment in IT, I realized my educational background might still be a barrier. Even with independence, my only real connections were with my former company, making me wonder if returning there was my only option. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I pondered these thoughts. Eventually, dawn broke after a night of contemplation, and I faced the day on little sleep. That day, Anne appeared at the office as if nothing had happened, receiving a report from John. Upon discovering I had resolved the issue, she seemed frustrated, slamming her desk. John, witnessing this, was shocked, and it seemed to drive a wedge between them, leading to silence. The department's atmosphere soured, and the manager's visits to the restaurant became more frequent. He brought many complaints every time.
If there's another major issue with the logistics system, I bet John might quit. He seems to manage small problems, but it takes too long, and it looks like he's reaching his limit. He's not well received by the other employees either. Anne, meanwhile, has started ignoring John's struggles, probably planning to bring in someone new.
He continued, asking for another beer. What's the best course of action?
The best thing would be for you to come back and maybe get Anne transferred.
He whispered that to me. That's a bit harsh. Maybe just a transfer.
Only 3 months until April. If Anne is still around, maybe I'll quit and we can start a company together. Tom, I feel like we can do anything if we team up.
No need for you to quit. I've thought about starting my own business. Fixing the issue yesterday made me think I still could, and I want to test my abilities. But there's nothing around here, and my lack of education follows me. It seems like my only option might be to return to the company. When I said that, my dad, who rarely interrupts, spoke up.
Were you stuck in that kind of thinking? Go out there and test your skills. There's always someone better in the world. Knowing that is how you grow. Finding a job again might be hindered by your lack of formal education, but if you are working independently, no one will know unless you tell them. There's nothing to lose, right?
Encouraged by Dad's words, I made up my mind. Got it, Dad. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, go for it. If you're going to travel around, you need to get your driver's license. What about your online college?
I can't juggle everything, so I'll get my driver's license first. Education doesn't matter much for working independently, right? As Dad and I got excited, the manager, feeling left out, said grumpily, "Hey, I brought it up, so let me in on it too. You have a family and kids, and it'll cost you, so quitting might not be the best idea. If you really can't stand your current company, maybe think it over, but wait until the end of March. Personnel changes. Can you refer someone to us?" After convincing the manager, I started attending driving school the next day. The school was crowded with high school seniors about to proceed to college, making me sigh deeply. Feeling inferior because these kids will have a higher education level than me, attending driving school became a source of distress. That sense of educational inferiority wasn't easy to shake off, so I took every class available, from morning till night, to finish as soon as possible. In a month and a half, I got my license. During a break, as I was looking at a used car magazine, Dad and my brother approached me with big smiles, handing me something I instantly recognized. Car keys. Led to the parking lot, a white minivan with a newbie driver sign awaited. "This is for me." Both nodded, and I climbed into the driver's seat. Driving off without a specific destination in mind, we reminisced about our time starting at the restaurant, driving until the gas ran out. I often wonder where my life would have been without meeting you, Dad. Raised without knowing familial warmth, you showered me with love and let me pursue my interests. I'm truly grateful.
That's good to hear. All I can do is not get in your way and support you. That's just what parents do for their kids. So don't hold back with me. You are still young and have a long road ahead. Believe in your abilities, and someone will take notice.
My brother nodded in agreement. Thanks, I'll do my best. The next day, I decided to make my former company my first business client. When I called the manager to announce my independence, he said, "Congratulations. As a celebration of your new start, I'd like to offer you a job." He had prepared by asking the team that launched the logistics system to help me, and they were ready to support my venture. I was invited to the office for a meeting, waiting in the conference room, and entered.
Tom, it's been a while. The last time we spoke was in this room. I really appreciate you fixing the recent trouble. I hadn't realized how capable you are and how much your colleagues respect you. I'm sorry for judging solely based on education.
And sincerely apologized to me.
I can't ask you to come back, but would you consider being our dedicated contractor? Everyone feels more secure with you around.
Surprised by Anne's offer, I was pondering. When the manager arrived,
Anne, have you already discussed everything?
he addressed her.
We talked, but he looks quite perplexed. I doubt he'll believe it coming from me, so I'll let you, the manager, explain.
She said that and left the room. The manager continued, proposing a yearly renewable contract for on-site work, which I declined. "Manager, I appreciate the thought, but I want to test myself in different places. I want to see how far my skills can go. I can commit to being on-site." I turned down the permanent position but managed to secure project-based work. I involved John in the programming, providing prior explanations to ensure he could handle any issues if I wasn't available. This would allow me peace of mind to take on other clients and aid John's development. Teaching John was also a way of giving back, and I shared all my knowledge with him. Quick to learn, John fully grasped the logistics systems programming, and as I moved on to other clients, my workload gradually increased. With the car gifted to me by my family, I'm ready to head out anywhere I needed and get the job done. 5 years had flown by since I started living this way. I got married in my 3rd year of independence, and to everyone's surprise, my partner was Anne. The manager was utterly shocked when I handed him the wedding invitation. After marrying, my wife retired and began handling the accounting at my company, supporting me steadfastly. Her competitive spirit is as strong as ever, and while she never apologizes first after a fight, she genuinely cares for my dad. With her managing our home, I can travel across the country without any worries. I've always felt fortunate to be supported by others, allowing me to turn my passions into my career. Eventually, I'll become a father too. When that time comes, I want to shower my family with the same love and care that Dad gave me.